Hello. This week's Torah portion, Va'et Hanan, includes the repetition of the Ten Commandments. The last of them is, you shall not covet. What does it mean, you shall not covet? What exactly is being commanded here? How can you prevent yourself from having certain feelings, certain thoughts? Aren't they beyond your control? And isn't Judaism a religion of action, not of feelings or belief? An entire industry, the advertising industry, exists only to get us to covet things we don't have. Is it sinful, lock, stock, and barrel? Let's explore what our sages have said on the matter. First, the Torah texts. The first version in Exodus is, Lo tahmod bet re'echa, lo tahmod eshet re'echa, ve'avdo, ve'amato, ve'shoro, ve'hamoro, ve'chol asher le're'acha. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, not his ox, not his ass, nor anything that is your neighbor's. The second version in Deuteronomy, in our portion, is Velo tahmod eshet re'echa, velo tit'aveh bet re'echa, sadehu ve'avdo, ve'amato, ve'shoro, ve'hamoro, ve'chol asher le're'acha. And you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor shall you desire your neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. Unquote. Note the differences in phrasing. Exodus talks about coveting your neighbor's house, then his wife, then other things. Deuteronomy talks about coveting your neighbor's wife first, then desiring his house and other things. A different verb is used, so there must be a difference. What is that difference? The Talmud holds that coveting is a longing that leads to wrongdoing, whereas desiring is a matter of the heart only. The Rambam writes in his Mishneh Torah, when you desire a neighbor's object and pressure him heavily until he gives it to you, even if your pressure was friendly, and even if you pay handsomely for it, you have violated the prohibition. Unquote. So, in the Rambam's view, even pressure to sell is reprehensible. You must not tell your neighbor who did not put his house on the market, I want your house so badly I will pay you twice its market value for it. You must not tell a poverty-stricken husband, divorce your wife so I can marry her. I'll give you $1 million and she will live like a queen. And what about threatening them with reprisal if they don't do as you say? Obviously, that's even more forbidden. Nevertheless, the Talmud says, if a man agrees to sell something through fear of physical violence, the sale is nonetheless valid. This ruling is motivated by practicality. Without it, a lot of legal sales would be questioned. The Rambam also writes, quote, desire leads to coveting, and coveting leads to stealing. For if the owner of the coveted object does not wish to sell, even though he is offered a good price and he is entreated to accept, the person who covets the object will come to steal it. As it is written in the book of Micah, they covet fields and then steal them. And if the owner approaches him with a view to reclaiming his money or preventing the theft, then he will come to murder. Unquote. So, the Rambam views do not covet as a protective fence that avoids a cascade of infractions. For example, coveting your neighbor's wife might lead to murder of her husband, as in the case of David and Bathsheba. If the adultery is not known and leads to a child, the father is misidentified, and the child does not get to inherit from his real father, which is a form of theft. The child does not get to honor his real father, which breaks another commandment. If the matter is known, the child is tagged as a bastard, and may marry only another bastard. If he can't find one, he cannot marry, which means fewer Jews to observe Shabbat and commandments. The Talmud states that envy, lust, and seeking honor remove a person from this world. This implies that the commandment seeks to protect not only the neighbor, but also the coveter, allowing him to elevate himself and earn a share in the world to come. But all this does not explain how we can prevent ourselves from coveting. First of all, the Talmud makes clear that while coveting is forbidden, there is no punishment for it. Quote, "There is no punishment for mere evil intention, for it is said in the book of Psalms, 'If I saw iniquity in my heart, the Lord would not hear.' If evil intention does lead to action, the Holy One, blessed be He, does not punish it. If evil intention does not lead to action, the Holy One, blessed be He, does not punish it." Unquote. So we can relax about that. Second, the Talmud describes one way we can go about not coveting, taking action not to look into our neighbor's affairs. It says that if two people share the same courtyard, each can force his neighbor to build a wall in the middle so that neither can look into the other half. Unquote. The Talmud even goes beyond that, asserting that damage caused by looking is also damage. Unquote. This implies that the neighbor is somehow harmed by mere thought. So coveting is damaging to the neighbor even if no action results from it. How so? Mere thoughts can harm? Mind over matter? This is known as the ayin hara, the evil eye. Ibn Ezra, the 12th century Spanish commentator, holds that it's all a matter of training children since their youth, and there is the implied action behind the commandment. He writes that a person does not desire to lie with his mother, although she may be beautiful, because he has been trained since his youth to know that she is forbidden to him. He does not desire non-kosher meat, just as we Westerners do not desire snake meat or fried ants. It's a psychological result of our training. Proper education can regulate improper coveting. As it says in the book of Proverbs, "Train a child in the way that he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Note that the Talmud says that for everything God has forbidden, He has created an equivalent that is permitted. For example, if you have a lust for blood, you may not become a murderer, but you may become a butcher or a surgeon. But this comment applies only to things God said you cannot have, such as your neighbor's possessions. Your neighbor's possessions. It does not apply to the possessions themselves in the abstract. For example, if your neighbor has a beautiful house, there's nothing wrong with you desiring to own a similar house and working hard to earn it. Otherwise, how would you ever acquire anything if you did not desire it first? The prohibition is against wanting your neighbor's house specifically. And even if one wishes to fault the desire itself, our tradition says that all achievements can be traced to envy, coveting, and jealousy. The Midrash says, quote, "Without the evil inclination, no man would build a house, take a wife, beget a family, and engage in work." As King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, "And I saw that all labor and all achievement in work was the result of man's envy and rivalry with his neighbor." Unquote. The Sefer HaChinuch, an anonymous 13th century Spanish commentary on the commandments, simply denies that it is impossible to regulate one's desires. Quote, "Do not wonder and ask, but how can it be in one's power to restrain his heart from longing for riches, and that he may see in his fellow man's possession, when he himself is lacking them all? How can a prohibition be given in the Torah about something which man cannot possibly obey? This matter is not so, for it is indeed in one's power to restrain himself, his thought and his longings from whatever he wishes." Unquote. In the same vein, the Midrash says, "The wicked are ruled by their hearts." As it says in the Tanakh, Naval said in his heart, and Esau said in his heart, and Jeroboam said in his heart. Now Haman said in his heart. But the righteous rule their hearts, as it says in the Tanakh, and Hannah was speaking to her heart, and King David said to his heart, and Daniel decided in his heart. The righteous are therefore similar to the Creator, concerning whom it is written in Genesis, and God said to his heart. Unquote. So, righteous people rule their hearts rather than are ruled by them. Another point is that if we wasted time wishing for what we don't have, we would not spend as much time appreciating what we do have, and may even lose it. The Talmud says, quote, "Whoever sets his eyes on what is not his, loses also what is his." Unquote. So there you have it. Coveting what you can't have is bad for you, but you will not be punished for it. unless it leads to prohibited action, which it frequently does. Desiring something and working diligently to earn it is perfectly fine. You can prevent yourself from coveting by not looking into your neighbor's affairs. You can prevent children from coveting if you train them early enough to understand that some things are off limits. It can be done. Shabbat Shalom.